Hello guys, Dan here, welcome back. In today's video I will show you a very nice way to paint a black with a zenithal highlight so that you actually don't need to spend too much time on painting and highlighting the black parts. This will be done on this starter pack for the Morat Aggression Force. So without further ado, sit back, relax and enjoy the rest of the video. First, I'm going to prime my models with a black primer. For this, you can use a spray or you can use an airbrush, whatever is easier for you. It really doesn't matter. Just try to have a good and even coat from all the possible angles. I went with the 2 passes just to make sure that my coat is even all around. For the next step, we are going to apply a zenithal highlight. We are going to do that by picking up white spray, or you put a white paint in your airbrush. It really doesn't matter. I think it is much easier to do it with a spray. But for me, I cannot spray outside because it's too hot and too humid, so I'm forced to use the airbrush for this. But on the other hand, I have more control while doing the airbrush. So what you want to do here is that you want to fix your point of light from the top, and then you're going to spray only from the one angle from the top to your miniature. As you can see, I'm rotating the miniature around its base and just spraying from the same angle. So this will create highlights from the top, but when you look at your miniatures from the bottom, there will be still shadows. So we are going to abuse this and use it just to make some shortcuts in painting these miniatures. After you're done, your results should look something like this. As you can see, the miniature look much darker from below and much brighter from the top. So leave this to properly dry and then we can continue painting these models. Since I wanted my weapons to be completely black, to make a difference from the armor that they're wearing, I'm going just to use the black paint and I'm just going to totally paint them black. Only thing is that I'm going to leave is the magazine, because I want magazine to be a little different color, so I will just leave it with this zenithal highlight, but I will paint everything else black. I applied this in 2 very thin coat, and I was really being careful around when I was painting around the parts that I want to stay with zenithal highlight. And the next thing that I was going to do is to block the color of the pants. So for this I used the Incubi Darkness, and I just went around, I put this on a wet palette, added a few drops of water to this color so that it flows better from the brush, and I just painted the pants with 2 very thin coats. After the first coat you'll still be able to see a little of the zenithal highlight from under, but when you go with the second one you will have perfect coverage. The next color that I'm going to use will be color called Ivory, and I will use this color to paint the hair on these models, because I wanted this hair to be more matching the one on the box art, so that it can tend towards the white. So we are going to start with the Ivory and then we are going to highlight it towards the white later. For the next step, I'm going to use dead white, and I'm going to paint all the skin with this color. The thing is that I want to use the same red to paint the armor panels and the skin, but since I'm going to base the skin with the white before, it will look much more vibrant and much more brighter than the one after I apply it on the armor panels. So this is just one of my shortcuts that I save the time by using the same color for both of these elements. My red color of choice was Scarlet Blood, or you can use like a bloody red, or if you're using Games Workshop, it can be Mephiston Red or Evil Sun Scarlet. So just something like that that I wanted like to be more on the brighter red side. So that what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same color and I'm going to paint all the skin tones with this, and I'm going to paint all the armor panels that I want to be red. It's mostly the one on their chest and one on their shoulders. One of the last details that we need to block before applying the wash is going to be on the latter parts, like the pouches, straps and these little bags that they are carrying. For this I will use Rhinox Hide, and same as before, I'm using wet palette for this. I will add a few drops of water, so because the color from the pot is very thick actually, if you take it straight from the pot, and you want it actually to flow inside the recesses and inside all the details here, so that you have a better coverage. So apply this in 2 very thin coats and wait for everything to properly settle and dry before applying the wash. I will show you a little recap how the models look like at this stage, if you want to paint it same as I did, so that you can see how I painted the details on the back. And now I'm going to do a thorough wash of the miniatures. For this I'm going to use Nuln Oil, and I will dilute it a little with the Lamian medium, so that the wash actually flows much easier inside the recesses and don't actually stick on the top of the flat surfaces, because most of these armor panels I want them to remain with a little zenithal highlight, but I just want them to be a little darker because the zenithal highlight made them too much bright, and the thing is I will work towards it to be a little more on a darker side. And I forgot to mention that I will actually wash the whole miniature except the guns that are black, so there is actually no point in applying the wash there. Now leave everything to dry properly for like 45 minutes, so the wash settles down inside the recesses, and as you can see, it made our miniatures a lot darker. So you can still see the effects of the zenithal highlights, so you can see on the most raised areas some points of light, and everything else is much darker, and that is actually the effect that I wanted to achieve. So now I can proceed to do the highlights on these models. We will start first with the red, and we will go back to the Scarlet Blood, since the wash make this red a lot darker. We are going to go back and repaint the flat armor panels and try to return it to the original Scarlet Blood tone, but this time avoid going inside the recesses. You want to leave the recesses still with the wash, so that you have your shadows intact. Now I'm going to mix a little of the sunny skin tone into this color and create my highlight tone, and then I will go around the face, do the highlight, And then for the armor panels, I'm going to do an edge highlight. And for the final highlight, I'm going to add the Ivory to the previous mix. And this time, I'm going to be focused only doing edge highlight, like on the corners and on the really sharp edges of the armor panels. This is going to be our brightest highlight and our smallest one. So with the previous edge highlight, our lines were like a little thicker. Now we will focus on doing the very thin lines just to make this highlight stand out. When painting the Oznat, you will use the totally same technique and totally same colors, just this time you won't be focused on the sharp edges of the armor panels, you'll be focused on the flat raised areas of the muscles. Since she has some battle markings on her skin, I just pick up Ivory and one of my smallest brushes and I just draw very thin lines. I totally tried to copy the boxed art, but if you wanna do some other lines, just feel free to experiment. Only one coat with this paint is enough and you will have a really nice and interesting effect. Now we're going to focus on highlighting the leather parts, like the pouches and the straps. For this I'm going to use a Doombull Brown, and I'm going to apply this as a stippling technique. So you're going to use a little of the color on the tip of your brush, and you're just going around the edges and start touching, actually stippling the edges with your brush. So don't pull sharp lines, you are just trying to make little dots, so that you want actually to create a worn leather effect. So just go around and do these little dots and little scratches around all the leather belts, leather pouches and these little bags that they are carrying. And for the final highlight, you're going to repeat the same process, but this time using Skrag Brown and doing the smaller scratches than you did it in the previous step. So just go around the model, repeat everything, but this time make very small scratches, very small lines, very small dots, and the letter will look very natural. To highlight the pants, I'm going to use a Dark Reaper, and this is a really small highlight which you are going to focus on the raised folds of the pants and the edges, like the areas around the pockets and around the armor panels. So this is actually a really small highlight, so you don't need to spend that much time on it. So just go quickly and highlight those areas. Before I start highlighting the hairs, I'm going to apply one thick layer of Apothecary white on all the hair. So this will actually look like a wash, and it will give a really good tone to the hair. So after this, the only thing that is left is to apply the little highlights on the hair with the white. Since these models on the official art have a gold rim on their knee pads, I will show you how to easily do a non-metallic metal gold on this. To start off, we will use a heavy brown and we will just paint the rim with this color. So you will have to apply it in two very thin coats, so just be careful and paint only on the top of surfaces, don't go inside the recesses, because we wanna save time and we wanna save that as our shadows. Then for the second step, we will use a heavy gold brown and we will start marking the points of the light. So just mark it like on the most raised areas, on the corners, and Just pick up the areas where you think that light will naturally fall down from the top and just mark them with this color. And for the final highlight, I added white to the previous color, and this is my final color, so I will only put a little dots to create like the final reflection from the source of the light that's coming from the top. So this is done only on the corners, like a small dot in the middle of the highlight, so nothing too much, just to create little reflection, and this will be enough. It will start looking great, so we can move on. Now it's time to focus on the Oznat's bone armor. For this I'm going to use Ushabti Bone, and I'm just going to paint all the bone parts of this armor. I will apply this in two very thin coats, so that I want to achieve equal coverage all around. I don't want to see any black from the undercoat under it. After that is done, I'm going to apply wash with the Agrax Earthshade, but as the bone is like much darker to the root and much brighter at the end of the bone, so what I'm going to do is that I'm waiting for the first layer of wash to dry, then I'm going to apply a second layer of wash, but this time I will cover 2/3 of the bone, and then I will wait for everything to dry, and then I will apply a third time wash, but this time on the lowest 1/3 of the bones. While applying it in these layers, I will get it that it's brighter at the top and it's getting darker at the bottom, since I applied more layers of the wash. Then, after everything is dried properly, we are going to go back to Ushabti Bone and just pick up a little edge highlights on the most raised areas of the bone. You can do this as a stippling, or you can do this as a little lines, it's up to you. Just do a little highlight, and that will be enough to finish off with the bone parts. And now we are going to do the final highlight. This will be done with the pure white. So I will use this color first to highlight the hair, and then I will use it to start highlighting all the weapons. This will be done as an edge highlight, so try to use the side of your brush or the tip of your brush, like try to make like a 90-degree angle, and then just pull slightly your brush so that you get very thin lines. And with this you want to highlight every possible sharp edge and trace every single line on the gun. This is very time consuming process, but this will actually make the final look of your model, and it will make it look great. I will use white as well to highlight all these armor panels. So I'm going to trace every single edge of the armor, every single line, wherever is that possible, and this will tie up everything, and I'll promise you, like, it will take a lot of time, but after you're done, like, it will look great. One of the last details that we need to do is to paint the LEDs on these models. For this I actually first painted them white, and then I used the Escorpena green and just repainted these LEDs. So that was the only detail I did, because they're not that big actually, there was no need to do a lot on them. One of the last details that I'm going to do is to use the Vallejo pigments. This is a brown iron oxide actually, and I will just use one of my old brushes, and I will just apply these pigments on the top of the guns. You can do this like with totally dry brush, no water, no anything, just take the pigments out and just apply it on the top of the guns, just to create this like old oxidized iron. And that's it guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It will mean a lot to me, and it will help that more people can see this video and that this channel can grow in the future. And if you have any comments and suggestions, please leave them in the section down below, or if you want me paint something else from the Infinity line, let me know and I will try to do my best. This will be all for now, guys. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.